How is this one different? I'm sure you want to do a good job on every single award show. You want to knock it out of the park. What is different about prepping for the Oscars and for another award show?
It's funny because you'd think it would be basically the same, and it is basically the same. You walk on stage, you tell some jokes, you try to stay loose and lively throughout the broadcast, you try to stay involved, but people keep reminding you that it's the Oscars and that there are 3 times as many people watching and that it's the most important award show, it's the biggest award show, and eventually it starts to kind of like, I don't know, it starts to become this cloud that surrounds you. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it sometimes. And if people would just leave me alone, I think it would be fine, but my blood pressure is through the roof.
But this one is starting, there's a different sort of pressure you're starting to feel.
Yeah. It's funny because you realize, like, you think doing your own show is important, and it's like, oh, you know, the light comes on, I have to do a show. And you realize when you're hosting the Oscars how insignificant your nightly show is, how that is just, that's a crumb and this is a wedding cake.
Now, has your wife or anyone else come at you with some ideas maybe you have now that haven't gone away and said, look, Jimmy, you better not do that one. You better not pick on that person. You better not touch that topic.
Well, I'll tell you, my mother has been texting me ideas for the show.
All right.
And I'm not sure where she got the idea that she should do this, but this was my mother's idea that she texted me. She said, you should get Alec Baldwin on to play Donald Trump. Oh, wow. I'm like, okay, well, they kind of do that on Saturday Night Live already, and it's kind of their thing, and it wouldn't necessarily be a novelty at the Oscars. But instead I just texted, go back to sleep.
Mom's sending ideas. Anybody else sending ideas?
No, really just my mother. I mean, other than people I ask for ideas, it's primarily my mother texting ideas.
Has she sent a good one yet that you like?
No good ones. No.
Is there anybody in the audience you think you shouldn't pick on?
Oh, anyone I shouldn't pick on? I don't think so. No, I mean, I think everybody is fair game. I think there's not really anyone I fear.
Not intimidated a little bit by somebody.
Well, there are some people that are intimidating. Like if Jack Nicholson was in the audience, which I don't know if he'll be there or not, I would think that would be somewhat intimidating. You know, there are certain characters, some of the older actors that garner a great deal of respect, and then of course there are some people that seem like they might be a little bit crazy. Like if Nick Nolte was in the audience, I might be a little bit nervous, or you know, certainly if Gary Busey is anywhere in the neighborhood, I'm always on edge.
But that has nothing to do with your jokes. That's just them being present.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it about this show? You do your thing, but you don't want to necessarily have the Oscars be just 100% a reflection of the Jimmy Kimmel Live show. How do you strike that balance but still have your personality as a part of the show?
I think you have to assume going in that no one knows who you are. The home audience has no idea who this person is who showed up to host the Oscars. So you don't want to do your show. I don't want to make references to my security guard Guillermo, who everybody who watches my show knows. I don't want to do anything that's too inside. And the show is about the actors and the directors and the writers. And you have to keep that in mind. You know, this is their show. I've been asked, and I'm honored to have been asked to be the host of the show, but I am not the focus of the show. Unlike my own show where, you know, it's Jimmy Kimmel Live, the show's about me. This show is not about me. I'm one of the parts of the big Oscar machine.
But there has to be something, we have to expect to see something from your show in this show. Mean tweets?
That's possible. It's possible there could be some mean tweets on the show.
That one's on the table. A month before the Oscars last year, I ran into Chris Rock and I asked him, that was when the Oscars So White thing was going on.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, what do you have planned for your opening? He said, man, I don't know.
Right.
That show's a month away, and about 3 days beforehand, it's probably going to come together. Is that kind of what's happening?
That's exactly right, especially with the way things are going in this country right now. You have no idea what the umbrella story is going to be by Oscar Sunday. I mean, for all we know, I mean, God only knows what will happen that weekend, and I will be expected, I think, to react to whatever's going on at that time. So you can only really be like 75% ready a day or two before showtime. If you're ready, by the way, if I was ready now, 3 weeks before the show, I can guarantee you it wouldn't be a very good show. It would feel stale.
Isn't that a little nerve-wracking, though? I mean, this is what you do every night, right?
Yeah,
But
no,
still,
not
it's-
really. I prefer it that way. I make changes right up until the last second. I mean, even just kind of running through the teleprompter, I'll cut jokes or add little things just right before the show starts. It's always how you do it. It's never perfect. You can never get it to 100%. You try, but I've always believed that 90% is good enough.
It's good enough.
Really my motto.
Who would you like to see host the Oscars?
Who would I like to see host the Oscars?
So that hasn't done it yet, but if you
Okay.
last minute
I'll
couldn't get
tell
out of bed, had a flu, and say, hey, you guys call this guy. This is who I want to see.
Based on the ideas, it's not a guy. Based on the ideas that I've received, I would like to see my mother host the Oscars because she thinks these ideas are so good. I want her on the stage doing them. That's what I would like to see, how the audience reacts to these dopey ideas she keeps sending me.
Now, are we going to see Mom in the show?
But they will be in the audience. My parents will be there, but they're not gonna. She's not making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches like she did.
She's
at
not
the Emmys.
participating.
I told her she doesn't have to work this time. That's maybe why she's sending me jokes.
Are you studying past Oscar hosts?
Yes.
Who in particular are you kind of keeping an eye on?
I've watched all of them. I watched all their monologues. I've watched some of the shows all the way through. And it's interesting to see the different approaches, what was going on that year. I mean, they're all somewhat topical. They're all related to the news that weekend, and yet also they refer to the movies. And sometimes there are movies that everybody knows. And this year there are movies that are small movies. Maybe they haven't been seen by as many people. So that puts you in a strange situation because you have to kind of explain what you're talking about before you talk about it. And so that changes my approach.
But who do you like? Who really nailed it in your opinion in the past?
I think Ellen, in the recent past, I think Ellen did a phenomenal job. I mean, Billy Crystal is like the kind of gold standard of Oscars hosts. But I have to say, I know it sounds like I'm just being nice, but I thought everyone did at least a good job, and some of them did great jobs hosting the Oscars. And that actually makes it worse for me, because what I would have loved is if the last 14 Oscar hosts in a row had bombed miserably. That's my dream. Get in a time machine, go back, ruin the Oscars for all of those hosts.